Hi artists and creatives, I'm Amy, and on this channel we talk about how your creative gift has value. Today I'm going to take you with me on a field trip to Ribbit-Ribbit. Now this is my old company that I used to own. I don't own it anymore, but over a decade ago I started this company called Ribbit-Ribbit that makes handmade picture frames and other kinds of home decor and sells them to boutiques and stores all over the country. I sold it to my second in command and he runs things now. But I wanted to show you a little bit of how things work. I went there to help out with some hand painting things this week and I took some video while I was there that I thought might be interesting to you. I want to tell you a little bit about how I started off because a lot of you out there are in your studio making your wonderful creative thing and trying to figure out how to sell it and how to make money from it, and that's what this channel is about. I started off as an artist doing these things on my own. I was just making frames, painting each one at a time by hand, and slowly over time we grew to have, I had helpers that I hired, I had more people working with me, I had things I would hire out to have done. We learned how to do screen printing so that we could screen print some things and hand paint some things, and that's how they still make them today. So it's a wonderful handmade product made in the USA and it sells in boutiques and specialty stores around the country. So I'm going to take you with me so you can see what that's like. Okay, so I'm headed over to Ribbit-Ribbit with my paintbrushes in hand and some caffeine for the day, so I should be good to go. We'll start off looking in the back warehouse. That's where there's storage for a whole lot of pre-cut picture frames and crosses and all kinds of different items that'll be spray painted in a booth right around the corner and then sanded, ready to be painted. Also, the boxes and a lot of things like that are stored back there. There's a glass cutter and there's also off-season storage for things like holiday frames that are bagged up and will be used later. And then Bella is super busy doing an important job too. All right, once the frames have been base coat painted, they're brought into this room for screen printing, and there's the drying racks where they dry. This is a demonstration of the basic screen printing process that's done here. A lot of the backgrounds, either stripes or dots or patterns, will be screen printed onto the wood frames after they're painted. And then from there, they'll go on to be embellished with hand painting, with bows, with jewels, a lot of different things to make each design special. We do a lot of custom work for the boutiques and stores too. From there, the frames get put on a shelf awaiting the next step. There below you see that little pink Bella frame. Then there's some larger frames and also some crosses that they do, some decorative items that will be embellished with bows and jewels later. The next area is the hand painting area. That's where I do most of my work. And there's a demonstration here of me painting some little stitches, little dotted lines onto a frame which had the pink lines screen printed, and then I hand painted the little green lines onto it. So there's a lot of times there's a combination of screen printing and hand painting on the designs, depending on what they need at any given time. This is the area where any of us painters will work. Okay, the next room is the fitting up area. That's where all the ribbons and bows and jewels and embellishments are stored. You can see a wall full of ribbons and boxes of ribbon. There's also shelves full of tied bows and jewels and all kinds of things sorted there so that each custom order can be created the way that the store ordered it. Then there's the fitting up area where glass is added to the frames, pictures are put in, cardboard, and then the dowel or the finish on the back is put in. Here you can see the dowels. Those are used to stick into a hole in the back and make the frame stand up. And there's the glass. There's a big glass cutter in the back warehouse area and big sheets of glass, and they're all cut to the right size for the frames and then fitted up. These are the silk ribbons with jewels, which will be added onto the frames that are called the Brilliant line of frames. And here's an example of some of the kind of finished looking frames. I don't think I ever got a great shot of them when I was at the shop because everything was kind of in process. Okay, a lot of what the painters like me do is personalizing orders. So in this instance, I am doing a custom painted personalized order. I'm taking a look at the order form that's on the desk beside me, and I'm doing a sample of the name on just a piece of plain paper to kind of get the spacing and make sure the brush is working the way that I want it to. And that's what I'm doing here. Turned out the brush was giving me trouble, so after I painted this sample on the paper, I switched to a newer brush. And then what I do is just go with that basic spacing and paint it onto the frame. I follow, double check the order to make sure that I'm spelling everything right. Another reason I do it on paper first is to make sure that I am getting the order right, because I am notorious for making mistakes if I'm not paying enough attention, and nobody wants to have to repaint a frame. Also, if there are any imperfections from the screen printing, we touch those up by hand. That's another thing that the painters do. And here I'm going to go ahead and go forward and paint an order for a frame that says, "Our hearts belong to Mimi." Now I use this big long liner brush, and a lot of you painters out there may be saying, that's a weird brush and why would you do lettering with it? And not all of the painters who paint lettering at Ribbit-Ribbit use this type of brush. Some of us do. This is the one I started using when I first designed the picture frames, because I was painting everything by hand, and a liner brush held more paint and I could do a longer line if I was outlining the whole frame or doing a lot of lettering. I didn't have to dip my brush in the paint as often, and I just developed a way to do lettering with it that I got used to and worked for me, and I still use it. But other painters who do lettering at Ribbit-Ribbit don't have to use this type of brush if it's less comfortable for them, as long as they can do a lettering that looks cute and works well with the style of the design of the frame. Now, we used to glue a little wood heart on for these frames, but then we started painting them by hand because we got a lot of damage claims where the only thing wrong would be that the little heart broke off and needed to be glued back on. So now they're painted instead of glued on, and there's no damage with shipping. Okay, the last thing I'm going to show in the studio is a little bit of production painting that I did. There's about 8 frames that I painted that say "Love at First Sight." I'm going to show this in real time for those of you who are interested in kind of how long it takes to paint something like this. This is more of a script style, like a cursive style, and I find that a little more awkward to paint with the long liner brush, but that's how I do it. And I'm going to talk for just a minute about production painting. When you're painting things over and over again, it's a really good exercise in getting disciplined as a painter. You learn how to paint fast and how to paint without making very many mistakes. And I feel lucky for the different jobs I've had where I've done production painting. One of the first ones was doing hand-painted apparel for a clothing company, and I had to learn to work fast and not make any mistakes. And then I also started doing a lot of my own designs, but in the beginning I even did production of other people's designs that I painted, and that was really good experience for me as an artist. And when I started doing picture frames, I learned how to paint really quickly so that I could just get a lot done and make money off them, because it didn't take very long to paint any one of them. So it takes me about 2 minutes to paint the words on this frame, and I try to keep everything down to that so that we can crank them out and make something beautiful, but make it quickly. And it's good practice to have that kind of discipline of practicing something over and over again so that you can start to do it without making a lot of mistakes or having a lot of second guessing of yourself while you're working. It really helps you as an artist to move forward
aggressively and quickly, and with confidence.
Well, I hope you found that interesting. That's how we make things at Ribbit-Ribbit. And I also want to leave you with a few takeaways for you to think about how you can apply this to your own artwork. First, I do want to ask you real quickly to subscribe to my channel and click that little bell for notifications. Next week, I'm going to try and go up to the market at the World Trade Center and show you a few things behind the scenes there about how the wholesale market works. But some takeaways I wanted to leave you with today is to just tell you, start where you are. Start where you are, making your thing, make what you can make, start finding a market to sell it, and as you start to grow, you'll start to learn more. So the second takeaway is learn as you go, start learning what you need to know when you need to grow bigger. We learned how to do screen printing when we needed to be able to make more than we could paint with our own hands, and we needed to be able to make them faster. So at that point, we had the rest of the groundwork laid. We were ready to take on a new technology and learn a new thing and put that into the system. And then we continued to keep growing. We bought silk ribbon that we ordered from another manufacturer. When that manufacturer stopped making what we needed, then we learned how to make our own silk ribbon. And so you will learn these different steps as you need to as you go, but start where you are and start growing today. Start doing what you can do. The third takeaway is just always remember to value your customers. Your customers, even if you only have a few of them, even if you just have your first one or two, love them and treat them well forever, because they're the ones who will allow you to make a living as an artist doing your creative thing. And then when you're big enough to start to have employees or workers helping you, love your workers too. You need to treat everybody well, because that is what will help you and your business thrive. And so always value both your customers and your employees, no matter how big you grow. And I wish you the best, and I hope your thing will take off for you and that you'll be able to make a living doing what you love.